Hello and welcome to Stronger Together, the series from Microsoft for Startups, where we interview leaders from startups to discuss how they're addressing the challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm David Smith, Cloud Advocate at Microsoft, and today we're joined by Gary Lowe, founder and CEO of Psygig. Welcome, Gary. Thanks for joining the call.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you. Gary.
Great. Well, thanks, Gary.
Yep.
As we're recording this here at the beginning of May, COVID-19 is still quite active in many parts of the world. Where are you, Gary, and how are you doing?
I'm currently in Tokyo, Japan, and I'm doing great. We just have a public holiday the last couple of days, so finally taking a break from all the chaos happening.
All right, good. And everything going well?
Yeah. There was definitely difficulty with the new situation. First of all, our office was locked down. The building that we're at, we have no access to it, so things were somewhat difficult. But we had a secondary office, so we were able to still continue the business.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me about the business. Tell me about Psygig. Tell me how it got started and how you got involved with it.
Yeah, sure. So we founded the company in early 2017. Our company mission has always been to make machines safer for human. And we do that by providing solutions for inspecting issues with machines. Well, specifically in the autonomous drones or even self-driving car. So in the last few years, we mostly focus on the drone industry. And drones can fail either with software issues or could be a hardware problem, such as issues with the motors or the batteries. So we analyze the sensors, the data from the sensors, and then provide those analytics back to the users so that they can make better decisions to avoid having the same failure from happening again.
Okay, so how's that business been going? Can you give me some examples of some successes you've had up to now?
Yeah, well, one of our early customer has been one of the public listed drone company in Japan, and so we were able to gather a lot of data for them and then help them process it and provide the visualizations back to them. But what we have learned that there's not too many drones companies as we anticipated. But in the very beginning, at the heart of our business, we always just cared about building things that can keep human safe, right? So we are quickly developing new product, and that can go into new markets. And it just so happened that our experience and knowledge in building the solution for the drones industry happened to be very useful for the COVID-19. For example, the thermal imaging has always been a very popular technology in the drones industry. They use it to detect issues with wind turbine or maybe the solar panel. And in order for the drones to have the thermal imaging, right, you have to put the camera onto the device. And you also need some sort of embedded system to gather the data, process it in real time. And some of the data, you have to choose what data to send to the cloud and what to process it locally. So all that experience helped us to create this new solution for COVID-19 because pretty much it's a very similar problem that we are facing in terms of building the solution.
Okay, well, tell me about the COVID-19 solution. What does it do and how does it work?
Yeah, so we have this kind of a stationary device. It consists of a computer, a small embedded system, and a monitor and a thermal camera. So we started off at our office, actually. So actually in the late January or around that time, we already know quite a lot about the COVID-19. We're really worried about it. And personally, I don't want to kind of get sick for a few weeks, and it's going to be difficult for me and for the business and for the whole team, and also for all the people around us. Because if I get sick, I'm going to affect other people around me, right? And so at least for our office, I hope that if I know someone is having a fever, I don't want to go to the office myself. So that's why we wanted to develop a solution that can at least let our team member know if there's any people with a fever around us every day. And so we quickly create a prototype within a week or two, and we put it in like our office. So our office has a co-working space beside, or we are within like a co-working space.
Yeah.
So that like there's a lot of people coming in and out. I think the program or the space has about 200 or 300 members. They don't come all at the same time, but you get different people coming in and out. And so we first have like a few devices at the entrance and even at the co-working space so that you can detect people temperature in real time. And then you kind of gather all this analytics and put it on the cloud. So most of this like we have done before because it's pretty much the same embedded system that we use for drones, same camera that we have been using, and also the same kind of web platform that we have been using. So we were able to launch it pretty quickly.
All right. So you deployed these devices within the co-working space and in your office, and did it work? Did you spot anything that you weren't expecting to spot?
So I mean, like the new product, I wish that was the case. We definitely are getting into this new kind of new product. We face a lot of issues, and I think that's kind of what I learned having worked at multiple startups in San Francisco. The startup mentality is that like you just launch and you kind of learn about what's technical issues you should solve and what you should forget about. But I think the key thing is not getting into failures that will make you never come back again, right? Basically, the reason why we wanted to launch in the co-working space beside us is because we can quickly do a quick turnover. If there's some issues, we'll fix it right away, right? If we ship it to like a product to somewhere 2,000 kilometers away or miles away, then it will be too difficult for us to like diagnose this and fix the issues, right? And so we are very careful about where we launch our product. And so we started off with our co-working space, and then after 2 weeks we have like a marketing campaign, and people start to we were seeing way more interest than we expected. And then we kind of launch it to the companies that are close to us in physical space, and also the kind of companies that we know in person already. And so that also allow us to quickly iterate the product really quickly without getting into states where it's difficult for us to fix issues after.
Yeah. So how many sites has the product been deployed to now?
We're still so we were facing issues with having a small team. We're not able to create as many units as we hope, and so we have about 10 to 12 devices deployed, and a lot of the bottleneck has to be like with me. And another thing about the COVID-19 situation is that a lot of our members from very like early February, we were urging everyone to work from home. And so there were only a very few members that can kind of create the device, and a very few member of us could go out to different places to deploy the system. I mean, we're still at the stage to change all the whole process. We're starting to ship the product, and we're having all the documentation where people can assemble the product by themselves. But in the very early days, in the first couple of months, we are more of like, it's almost like a consulting kind of project in some sense, where we have to go there in person, make sure everything is okay, get the feedback, and then take the feedback and quickly like update it, maybe within hours or minutes to accommodate their needs in that situation. Okay,
great. Let's talk about the technical side of this a little bit. So I imagine you had to overcome some pretty significant engineering challenges to respond so quickly and in this environment. Can you tell me about some of those engineering challenges?
Yeah, definitely. One of the top one definitely has to be the technical challenge of going into hardware. Everyone knows that hardware is very hard, and our whole team are mostly consists of the software engineers, like embedded system, like computer vision or cloud computing. But we were kind of brave enough to get into hardware just because we were familiar with the embedded devices, right? Like otherwise, I don't think we would have a chance. And also because we were backed by some of the venture capitalists in Japan, so we have a little bit more cash to be able to invest in those hardware components. that's definitely the difficult part. And the difficult part that we learned has to do with the procurement process. Mm-hmm. We were able to buy or purchase quite a lot of the thermal camera modules in the beginning, but we knew that the supply would run out pretty quickly. When we were launching the marketing campaign, we knew that there will be quite a few competitors joining, and just because that we know the supplies for the thermal sensor were running low, pretty quickly. But not only that, over time, because of the COVID-19, the whole supply chain were being impacted, and there's a number of components that were also having a lower and lower supplies over time, and so we have to be really careful about what to purchase, how much to purchase, and which component to purchase. I think the solution at the end is basically we were able to find a lot of different source of inventory, not just relying on one, but going to 6 or 7 or 8 different sources to get something similar. The challenge was that we have to kind of figure out how to accommodate the variation of different hardware components.
Yeah, it seems like these supply chain issues that we've been hearing about with respect to COVID are applying in all sorts of situations, including yours. So that's really interesting. I know that Psygig is a Microsoft for Startups partner company. Can you talk a little bit about that, and has that helped you get in your journey and to get where you are now?
Oh yeah, Microsoft for Startup, especially, we have been working with the program in Japan, and they are just amazing. Obviously, the credits help a lot. It saves us the cost, and we were able to experiment a lot of new things because we have the freedom to try the different services, right, and see which one would fit without worrying too much about the cost. But because our web platform has to be also resilient, so it means that we need redundancy, we need more servers than that might be necessary, like launching a cluster, multiple cluster, one for staging, production, and each cluster will have multiple nodes to make sure they don't fail. So on the technical side, I think many startups will enjoy that benefits. But specifically in Japan, we were just very impressed by what they were able to do for us as well. So we had this event last August, and one of the most difficult thing about doing businesses in Japan, especially for foreigners, is that it's hard to establish our business relationship with different companies. And I think within a day, they were literally providing us warm intro to a lot of the major large corporations. Within one day, we were just meeting one party over the other. We were fortunately enough to meet even with the CEO, CTO of Microsoft Japan. We were meeting some of the members from the Ministry of IT. So that experience has been tremendously useful for our team. The experience is amazing. And lastly, at the end of the event, there's always this very interesting networking event that's pretty unique to Japan. And it's about they call it the nomikai, where you drink together. And that also helped foster some of the business relationship that I found. So yeah, definitely highly recommend for anyone who's watching this right now.
All right. Well, that's really, really great to hear. Thank you. Just looking forward, beyond kind of the short-term changes that you've had to make in your business, how do you think this pandemic is going to change the business in the long term?
That's a pretty difficult question. Things are changing very rapidly. And I think majority of people would think that this might take quite a long time to recover, at least a few years. So I think people are already seeing some of the necessary life changes that we have to adapt, or prepare ourselves to work from home for a longer period of time, and preparing for the digital transformation that's necessary for organizations or the business sectors that haven't done the transformation yet. I think, they have to first do that. And then the lastly is that it's going to change the kind of where the opportunity would be. So I think for every industry, some of the business opportunity have become difficult, but it also brings up a bunch of other new opportunity, right? For example, video conferencing, it was been doing really great. Like working for anything that can work from home, like Nintendo Switch has been going crazy. So a number of there's definitely like opportunities in the number of changes, and I think it might be a really good time for startup to take the advantage of that, because we learned that like big companies or even some of the other ones might not be able to adapt too well, because launching a new product is not necessarily the easiest things ever.
Yeah. And in that vein, like, for other startup founders that might be watching this, can you think of something that you've learned during this unusual situation that you might want to share with others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the biggest lesson was that like people want different thing at different time. And I think startup founders, or especially maybe engineering founders, people love to build what they want. And I think it's always a difficult question, right? For any like tech startup founders, whether they would build something that they envision, but that no one might want, right? They might be right or they might be wrong. It's always difficult to decide. And but I think like when situations like COVID-19, things are changing very rapidly. I think it's just not just in the founding period of the company. I think like going like forever, like the tech leaders or the engineers always have to listen to what customers want, and basically at least learn what they want and then build a solution that can satisfy their need. I think everyone knows that, but then it's always hard to execute because like I learned that from kind of the work experience, and even in this situation, it's not easy to build something that other people want. Most likely you rather do something that you like doing rather than doing something that will help other people sometimes.
So Gary, for any of our listeners that might be interested in your temperature solution or just learning more about Psygig generally, how can they find you?
Yes, please visit psygig.com, psygig.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary, for being part of Stronger Together. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great work, and stay safe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.